Hello again everybody, this is Amorgin and you're very welcome back to another community panel discussion, and we're getting towards the end of 2019 guys, and we're joined by Admiral Jansen of server 12. Jansen was with us for our very first community panel discussion, if you guys remember. We're also joined by regular Flando of server 131, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Ekon, of course, of the Founders server, to come in and have a wee chat, finish off this conversation we started around the new content, the new patch 9.0 and all of the elements in it. A wee bit of a focus on the Scrapyard. I've itemized it below guys, the links below for your convenience to just jump through to those parts of the discussion. So as always, grab your cuppa and join us for this community panel discussion. Alright guys, so it's been nearly a week from we recorded the last community panel on this new update and the new content that came in, and I think Flando, you were very appreciative. You wanted to say a wee thank you to Scopely for listening to the community.
Yeah, obviously having the red block removed because that was a big loss to me, so it's nice to see that they've listened and actually decided to bring it back after the holiday season in January, and also I'm currently talking to them just now to a support ticket, and they're going to be giving me one of the tokens back, so yeah.
Right, so I guess it shows that they can listen when they want to. Jansen, I want to bring you in for a second, just about you were the first person I seen post this idea of a link to a petition. Who actually started that? Where did that come out of?
Well, somebody, a good friend of mine, sent it to me via PM, and he asked me if I could do a video on it.
Right.
And I looked at it, and I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. And I looked further into the issue, and it was something I completely supported. So I agreed with what he had to say, but at that time, it had probably 200 people sign it.
Right.
And people were already, getting the word out, talking about that petition. So yeah.
Yeah, and do you guys think? I'll bring Ekon in here for a second. Do you guys think that this that the petition scared them a little bit, or would they have done this anyway?
I actually think that I have a little bit of a different perspective on this. I think that the whales out there and the people that are really spending a mini fortune on this in comparison to others have probably piped up as well and said that the game past level 40 and everything else would have been a little bit difficult, let's just say. So so I think there were a lot of changes, but I personally think that it came from the top down in terms of how everything was really bugging the heavy spenders, because it also meant that people that were probably thinking about spending or investing heavily may have been kind of a little bit avoiding it as well. So I think that's kind of where it came from.
Well, we're at a situation where they've listened anyway. However it happened, they've listened, and they've decided to lock the faction reputation. They're claiming that it used to be a bug and that it wasn't meant to be a feature, but they're happy to let it be a feature now, basically. So you guys all happy with that, I presume?
I mean, and let me just add this into this conversation, because on another game that I was playing about 3 years ago, the players did a massive protest because the developer did something similar. Not to this extent. The developer actually did something much more aggressive, and they nerfed like every single champion in the game after players had spent so much money. And so the only message I really want to get out to a lot of people is it really takes a whole community to come together and bring this kind of support, because Ekon said the whales. It's also the YouTubers there is probably the best way to get out the word to a lot of people. But also keep in mind that Scopely is licensing all of this content from CBS Interactive. And CBS is doing a huge push for Star Trek right now, and they're very careful about that brand. So if you do see something in the future that you do not agree with, other players don't agree with, talk to Scopely about it, but also talk to CBS Interactive on Twitter. They will more than likely respond to you guys.
Yeah. Interesting.
I was going to say it. Yeah, I completely agree. But the content creators as well, they're not going to say too much in terms of negative feedback. So things that come out, they'll focus on the positives. That was just part of it. That's just part of the program, and I've been part of it in the past. So you're not going to get anyone coming out and saying, "Hey, there's these massive problems here and there, and this needs to change." It kind of happens a little bit, and the more pronounced a content creator will be, the more sway they'll have a little bit to kind of just fight back a little bit. But for the most part, it's not going to really. I don't think they're actually going to come out and really say what we all think in terms of the petition. And, and faction locking and all that.
Flando had a good situation there earlier. Sorry. He was saying that he got a positive enough response from a ticket that he had in. You want to share a little bit of that with us, Flando, just in terms of the customer support that you experienced earlier?
Yeah, so on Tuesday I sent the ticket away, explaining the situation with me only getting one of the beta tokens because I lost it on my second faction maxed. And they got back, replied back pretty swiftly, just asking, like, can I send them like evidence, or just tell them what token I didn't get the faction for. So I sent them a couple of screenshots of my factions maxed before the update and then afterwards, and I got a reply back early on this afternoon saying, thanks for sending this to us. Which of the faction chests would you like me to grant you? So I'm just sitting there responding saying I want what reward I want, and I'll hopefully get that over the next couple of days. It's pretty straightforward, so it was.
So a result?
Yeah, well, I've not got the rep yet, but
yeah.
For the most part, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, well, it shows that they can respond when they want to. We were talking earlier, Flando, it's this idea that, like, when they've had their own chat and they've decided, yeah, fair enough, this is something that we're going to compensate players for, this is something that we're going to make a change to, we recognise it, whether it's because the whales are crying out or not, like Ekon saying there, I don't know, but when they've made that decision, it seems to be a relatively easy process to get your issue sorted out with customer support. They seem a lot more relaxed once they're allowed to, I suppose, give us compensation or work with us, you know. It just feels like there's some issues that they're afraid to go near. But listen, that's a whole other video. What I'd like to focus on a little bit more in terms of that is when all this content came out, they had there was a lot of this anticipated. There was a lot of content towards the end of the year we were anticipating with the anniversary and all of that, and we're coming into Christmas now, and we've seen all the G4 stuff, and it's for the big spenders. We touched on that in the last video, but they were telling us nothing in terms of details. Ekon mentioned about the limits to what content creators can say and all of that kind of stuff, and between myself and Ekon and Jansen, we know the story with that. But, like, even about the maintenance, we'd mentioned briefly about, like, at that stage, a couple of hours before maintenance is about to happen to fix something, tell us what they're doing. Put out a message and tell us what they're doing. The communication is just so lacking here.
One thing about that, Amorgin, is it's such a really great and valid point that you're talking about right now, because if this is the only mobile game you've ever played, you might not be aware of how engaging mobile game developers are with their communities. They create things like Discord servers. They create things such as open forums on their website to engage with their players. And a big part of that is this discourse back and forth. It's this two-way communication. And for the past year, ever since Global Watch, it's been, or it at least feels like, a one-way communication. Like, we're telling Scopely all of this. We need this, we need this, we need this. And it feels like it's just, we're talking to deaf ears here. And so I think that's a really good conversation to have with Scopely.
Well, certainly my experience,
we need more communication.
Yeah, my experience would have, as a content creator, would have been very much kind of like, there's no real interest in what I'm gonna do, or like there's a bit of interest when I'm giving out and I'm criticizing them, all right, you know, but there's no real interest being shown openly in terms of engaging me and what I can do, or yourselves for that matter, unless it's a case of like, here's a ship, go and make a video on it, and it's like, advertise our product and we don't really want you for anything else.
That's very true.
It really is for all intents and purposes, there's no particular reason why they should engage with us. So they don't see it that way anyway. And there's a lot of companies that operate like that, you know. And there's companies like that. Like I used to play Game of Thrones Conquest, and they would always engage with the community and actually give rewards and actually help out with the community. So it was very, very, very engaging. But not all game companies are like that, and they might actually, you know, they're relatively new at this, dig PRM and all that. I don't know too much about their history and how big or what their previous experience was with games, but in terms of community management and how big this community is, the amount of engagement is not really that much, right? So there isn't a big emphasis, and there's no reason for them to really do much if they're actually doing well. So they might think that it's going to disturb the status quo and kind of pull them back a little bit, you know, and make it even worse. So they're thinking, just leave it, you know, it's fine. Why should we do it? What benefit is that going to give them? Is that going to affect their bottom line? You know, if they start listing more and people are complaining more, you know, it might just even emphasize even more just how bad something is. So I think that, and I've talked to a couple of the very, very, very big spenders, and they said that, you know, a lot of them are complaining right now, big time, like really, really big time, saying that some of them are going to stop. Some of them are even spending like, you know, amounts that we would not even believe. So just really ultra rich. And they're saying that even they are stunted in growth. So even some of them can't even get to the 42, 43, 44.
And so, just to put this in perspective for people if they don't know already, like you're level 38 at the moment?
I'm 38 at the moment.
Yeah, so you're within touch and distance of many of these whales.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so, because some of them are spending, and I'm not even kidding here, they could be spending between 15 and 20 grand a week or two or three. So they're definitely getting up there in terms of all the resources they have and everything. They're, you know, aiming and gunning for the level 50, but they're struggling, and that's a lot of cash to drop to even struggle. So I think that the idea here is that, you know, the locking and the unlocking of faction reputation is just such a small part of this entire big picture, that, you know, we kind of all saw it as a big win, but it was actually just it was just something that they left working the way it was for a long time as a little fix, you know what I mean? So
right.
in some sense, we're all being distracted by this, but it's actually just such a small part of everything that's actually happening around us, where, you know, it's going to be impossible, if not, you know, just unachievable for anyone to really get to 39. The amount you have to spend and everything, even I'm just going, yeah, there's just no way I can keep going on this.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's from a high level, high spending perspective. Like, it's worrying when people of all levels seem to share the same concerns. You know, we're looking at new games coming out that people are starting to be attracted to that might start to engage some of the people that play this game. But again, there's probably another video in all of that as well. Flando, have you anything there on the communication end of it?
Yes, pretty much what Jansen and Ekon said. I think we've covered it before in previous community panels about the lack of response and communication. It just feels like even up to this state, they've not done anything on the back of that. They're not really taking on board what we're asking from them. I don't think it's a lot, in all honesty, to just give us a little heads up on what they're planning. You know, we're not asking for the world, you know.
No. And it would certainly endear more people to them if they made that kind of effort beforehand, you know. But anyway, I do want
to mention, just before we wrap up that point, that they actually do know usually in advance as well what's coming. So just being part of the program was, you know, a major part of it was that they do know, the mods know, a lot
Yeah.
of the content creators know a lot of this information, right? So it's not like you guys are, it's not like they're, we just thought we needed to do this now. This is emergency. Let's just do it. Or we only knew a day or two ago. We couldn't inform people. No, they knew, and it's all planned and executed.
And I find
well.
that
So there's an active decision to not.
Yeah, and I find it a bit, I don't know, it's a bit ugly, you know. I don't like it. It smells bad, you know, when you think about LCARs there, for example, and from our point, we have a unique perspective on that because we know the guys that and the effort that they've put in to build it and all of that, and you're heavily involved in that, Ekon, and all of that, right? And the difficulty, the obstacles and barriers we had to overcome to get that thing going and get it live, you know, not just technical, but like there was a lot of other background issues that we don't want to get into too much, like, but there was a lot of obstacles for us, and it's now become the #1 resource to the community. It's very clearly head and shoulders above everything, including official Discord. And them guys are in the dark. Them guys are in the dark when it comes to they have tens of thousands of people coming in asking what's going to happen in the maintenance, what's going to happen with this, what's in the new update, and the guys they're not able to give any answers. And, they should be provided with that information.
Not able to give the answers. That's the thing. So,
but what are they there for if it's not to 24 hours before it comes out? Give it to the guys and let them release it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So I don't know if you would have picked up on this, but when the faction rep unlocked, it was actually like the actual background story is that people started to find out. So people started to find out that there's a possibility of this happening or taking place, and I believe that it was the whales. And this is all some of this is conjecture, but I've got it on pretty good authority that a lot of the whales found out first. And they started telling their alliances, and before you know it, they just said, well, I guess cat's out of the bag, let's tell everyone. So it was kind of reserved for some very special people finding out. So basically right now, we're kind of looking at, maybe it's worth it that you should tell people because people will be happy. You'll give them a bit of hope and maybe they'll stick around. So like Jansen was saying, don't leave because things might change for the better.
Yeah.
And I don't see the negative point in that, so I don't know why Scopely would make an active decision not to, or maybe they just haven't.
It did feel like one very big positive. Now, maybe it's coincidence that there was a petition, right? Maybe the petition didn't, and maybe Jansen has a different view on that. Maybe the petition did have an effect, I don't know. But it really felt like the community took action, Scopely responded.
So a couple of things I just briefly want to talk about. On my channel, I did do some research on Scopely as a company, as a mobile game developer, and in 2017, their other game, The Walking Dead: Road to Survival, the players staged a massive boycott in 2017, and it looks like they just had to do another one, and they talk about lack of communication, and Scopely comes back with a comment stating they are focused on their communication. So we kind of see some parallels going on there as well. I strongly suggest if anyone is curious about this to Google Scopely, The Walking Dead, and you'll see all these articles.
Yeah.
But with that, what I will say is just what I experienced with the petition and with Scopely's change of behavior. The day I signed the petition, the next day they had changed what they had done.
And it felt very welcome, didn't it? It felt like it was an acknowledgement of the players. It felt like it was listening to the players.
Right.
And I think that lifted everybody's spirits a little bit. Like Ekon said, it's not an awful lot that they're giving us, but it's something and it's a positive. But anyway, I don't want to labour that too much, guys. We could probably do a full video on that. There's other elements to this, like the way they released the two. There was a confusion about the two different sets of missions. One set of missions, you could complete them, and then we had to wait on the second set of missions to come out or something, or there was a difficulty with that. Have you anything on that, Flando, or any of you guys?
So I don't know if that was a bug or not, or if they just chose to not do it, but the next day after the update, I was actually in game, and what they've done was they had to reset the previous mission, so you have to go through and do that again. And then at the end, you then got a choice of going for Federation, Romulan, Klingon. Now, bear in mind that once you choose one of those factions, you cannot go back and do the other two.
Now, I'm after choosing Romulan here, for example.
Yeah. And it's a pretty straightforward storyline, nothing too major. Rewards, depending on what level you are, you might find them worthwhile or not. I think there was one mission you got like, free rare material. A couple of missions you got a few uncommon material, but nothing amazing. You do, however, I think you get between 20 and 24 blueprints of the level 26 faction ship, depending on which faction you side with. So again, for mid 20 players, looking to get their first faction ship, that's a nice little bonus there to get that. But yeah, I mean, for someone like myself, like I'm level 31, it's nothing great at this level, but I can see why for a lot of the lower level players it could be quite a nice little push.
Yeah, you anything on that, you guys, about the way the missions were done, the way the content was released? Maybe not honestly, as buggy as some of the, like, they didn't completely break the game this time, you know.
Honestly, I haven't even done any of the missions.
Right. They're not that engaging. I'd agree with that. What about you, Ekon? Like we've been around the block with this a lot. Like, you any feelings on that?
He's just left the chat.
Is he away? He's got family stuff. So we'll wish Ekon happy Christmas. We'll probably not be talking to him before that. I have a video done with Ekon where I interview him. I'm doing like a little founders or meet the founders kind of playlist. I'll stick a few of the ones where I've interviewed some of the guys that play on the founder server, and I might get a few of the other personalities into it too. But I've done one with Ekon. He's done a lovely intro for it and all of that, so we'll get that up over the holiday period, hopefully. I've got the thing here that I'm looking at about the end of year special, the pack. It's not something I pay an awful lot of attention to because I don't buy packs, but some of you guys have bought a few packs in your time, and there's an end of year special here. It's showing at $10.99 for me.
You saw a few as well. I've seen, I think they've done one for Apple once a few months back. I think this is the second one for Android that I've seen now. I mean, it's a nice little pack, but I mean the rewards are, even for a tenner. It's not that appealing. 1,000 dilithium, like you'll get it anytime. 30k titanium, you get that anywhere, and the 2 million power steel, like that's not the hardest thing to get either. Like the speed ups, okay, a few shields in there, okay, but unless I had budgeted and said, right, I'm going to be buying a pack every so often if there's cheaper ones offered, I probably wouldn't bother. However, again, this is another thing where it shows that they might actually be listening, because there's been calls in the community. We've done it on the panel a number of times. I think Thaler and the different ones, and the niches and different ones have talked about this idea of dynamic packs, and now they're not quite the dynamic packs, but they're certainly more value for money. They're $10.99 is not too bad. Yeah, I mean that's the one thing that the game lacks once you spend a little bit, is the you don't get any packs of small value price wise. It kind of really pushes you to spend more every time, and take away that option. And that's what I like. If a game gives you options, that's a better way of looking at it.
I'm looking at Franklin pack here, $21.99. Looking at Boldly Go Special, $21.99. This sort of money that I wouldn't find too painful to part with if it was treating myself for Christmas, for example, or if there was somebody saying, what do you want for Christmas? I'm sitting there going, I don't really want anything. I'm happy with the socks and the jocks, but somebody wants to get me something, $21.99, get me that pack. Thank you, happy Christmas.
But Amorgin, it isn't just the dollar amount or the cost. It's the value in the pack.
Yeah, agreed, yeah.
And what I see them doing, and I've noticed a very big trend with this, is they're definitely lowering the prices of packs and throwing packs out there that are a little bit more inexpensive, but the value just isn't there to support even the $10 or $20.
What do you?
I agree, and actually, I've noticed the packs on mine have actually went up. So the ones previously, the big ones there that were.
Yeah, I seen somebody mentioning that. Was it who was it? Was it Beck? I think Beck had put in some information in the channel about that.
Yeah, so the big ones on mine went from 92 up to 94. I know it's not a massive jump, but it could be to some people, you know.
Yeah.
Still a lot, nevertheless. I don't know if that's just something they've chosen to do, if that is something they've had to do because of the agreement with Google on Android or whatever. Who knows? But yeah. However, just on that note, I don't know if you noticed, but they've put more directives into the Armada packs.
All right. Okay.
So the rare one, for example, the Armada Victory pack, that was 1,000 rare directives and 1,000 uncommon directives. Now it's 1,200 each.
Okay.
And then in the epic one, it was 1,500. Now you get 1,750. So they're giving you a little bit more directives. Still not worth value, not at all. But it's nice to know that they are kind of like making these barely noticeable but slight positive adjustments and putting that little bit more extra value into the pack. But yeah, it's still not worth buying by any means.
Now, is this the pack you buy in the store? Is this the pack?
Yeah.
Is it? This isn't the pack now from the Armada credits.
No. They're still the same.
Right.
These are the ones you actually buy with your own money. Yeah.
Would it encourage you to buy one?
No.
Right.
No, not at all. It's not way too expensive.
They gave away a compensation chest for daily goals there recently. Happy enough with that?
Is that the one where it was 24k raw material for each?
Was it that one? Yeah.
No, it was the 7 daily tokens, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. It was the daily tokens. Yeah. Yeah, which was helpful enough, I suppose, if you were close enough to a monthly chest, you know.
Apparently, what happened was it people they were doing the ops 40 daily goals or something, or they were resetting it, but they reset it for everyone or something. Or
yeah, or something like that. Mine got bugged then afterwards. I captured a wee bit of it. I captured a wee bit of footage of it. I was going back into my dailies afterwards, after we got the compensation or whatever, and going back into my dailies, and there was one of the days there that all I was getting when I went into my dailies was daily goals will unlock at level 3, or you must be level 3 to unlock daily goals or something like this.
I've not seen that one in months actually. That's a blast from the past. That little bug.
Aye, and we're getting these alpha tokens. How are you doing with that, Jansen? Are you bothering with any of these events and getting these alpha tokens?
No, I really have barely even picked up this game. I switched primarily over to Star Trek Online, and I really haven't looked back. I do come on here at least once a day, check on my shields, do some things for subscriber requests, but that's about it.
Yeah, they're handy. A lot of people talking about getting power steel with these things. A lot of the higher levels certainly saying it's power steel they're going to need, so it's power steel they're trading in these event tokens for. Bunch of officers and different materials there. I suppose the Devore blueprints are there for 500 a pop. They're the cheapest item in it. Arguably decent enough compared to other things. But yeah, anything on the alpha tokens, obtaining them, or what you're spending them on, Flando?
Well, I managed to scrap my Kamari this morning actually, so it gave me enough ore to upgrade one of the slots on my Bortus. So the weekly event, I've managed to complete this morning, but only because of the scrapping a ship. So I managed to get like 21k from there. But yeah, in terms of the actual event rewards, I think it's been the poorest one they've done yet between this Battle of Token event, the crossover event, and all that. This is by far the purest one. What I've seen people buy them on or spend them on has been the Ultra Recruit tokens.
Right.
I've had a couple of people spend them on the frequency modulators as well.
Right.
Personally, I'm working towards getting the rare faction ships, so I've been buying Brel BP with mine. And probably the best value, but I mean, I've managed to buy, I think, 5 or 6 since it started, which is, you know, that's like 3,000 faction credits it saved me, which is, yeah,
fair enough.
Saving them up on
It's another way of if you're grinding a few out and you're buying them with faction credits, and then you're going in, you're getting events like this where you can trade a few. Like, it gives you the wee boost. Like, I can appreciate how if you're working towards a ship that requires these, especially a faction ship, that every blueprint helps, and every new ways of getting them is always welcome, I suppose. You mentioned the scrapyard there. One of the things that significant part of this discussion should be the scrapyard, because we mentioned it in the last video, Flando, but you've actually done some significant testing on this now, and I think we've enough evidence there that shows that all of the down in the mouth negative comments that was there about the scrapyard they're not justified as much as we would have thought, because you can actually use the scrapyard to turn grade 2 materials into grade 3 materials.
Absolutely.
It's a roundabout way, and it's not a great rate, but it is possible.
Yeah, I mean, even other videos that I've watched and just seen people comment on the Star Trek Discord, just absolutely hammering away at how bad the scrapyard is, and I don't think they'd even give it time to actually look into it and run the numbers and see what they're getting back. And
this is why I hope, like, apart from the ego and all that there, this is why I hope people listen to the channel sometimes, is because the loudest voices or the what's being discussed in some of the forums isn't necessarily accurate or reflective of what's there. If you had to come in and made a comment when this was released, and even now possibly, and say, I love the scrapyard, and you didn't explain why, people would probably jump on top of you and be like, oh, it's scrapyard shit. But the reality, you know what I mean? But the reality is, with a bit of testing, you found a way. Now, hopefully, Scopely aren't listening and being pure Scrooge about the whole thing, and they're going to change it. You know what I mean? Like, that's an exploit, and change the thing. Like faction rep, leave it there as a feature. People would be happy with it. Increase the rate at which you get it, and you don't need this whole market thing. Most of us aren't going to get market to level 50 or whatever anyway. But allow us this workaround, to get rid of all of our two-star parts and materials and all of that, It's a nice roundabout way of utilising the scrapyard to get G3 materials.
Absolutely. I mean, it won't be long till we've run out of 2-star material and we're sitting mining that again.
Aye, to do it that way, and isn't that fine? Well, I think that's the way to do it. But listen, let's hope Scopely are listening or not being Scrooges about the whole thing. Have you any thoughts on that, Jansen?
Yeah, I'm looking at the scrapyard right now, and it's okay, because I'm looking at my Tala, which is fully leveled up, or it's level 30. And if I were to scrap it, I get 21 uncommon ore, 3-star, 11 uncommon crystal, and 1 rare ore and 1 rare crystal.
And one can't argue with getting those Tala blueprints. Go out low-level farming, get your Tala blueprints, wait for a ship event, upgrade the ship during the ship event, scrap it, and you get some G3 for the effort.
Right. So yeah, I actually like the scrapyard. I wish it gave a little bit more. However, I think it's a really good start.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. Any final thoughts on Scrapyard, Flando? I'm going to name this video Superb Scrapyard or something like that. Have you any thoughts on it?
I just, before everyone jumps the gun, I would strongly recommend looking at LCARs and checking the rewards. I mean, I only just found it tonight actually that you can get, let's say, 1 rare crystal and gas from an envoy when you scrap it, but it doesn't have to be max tier. You can actually get one from at level 25 onwards, which the amount of ship XP from 25 to 35 can be quite costly if you're free to play as well. Even if you spend as well, I guess it could be a lot. But up to 25, it's not that much. I mean, even grind-wise, you know, if you don't want to spend 2-3 hours a day grinding, just leave your ship out in a hostile system overnight. You know, you get some XP that way, and that way that you're still gaining XP and you're not even playing the game. You're sleeping away in your bed and still, getting that XP level up. But yeah, I mean, it's don't knock it until you try it. It's probably the best way to say it.
Updates to the faction store. The cost of loyalty packs. The one-time buy element to the, was it officer badges, Flando? And the new the new tiers of the reputation that has opened up new options in the faction store.
Yeah, so everyone who looks at faction store now will see the faction loyalty pack 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it goes up to 8. I think they are now one-time buys. People have been complaining that they've lost the pack when they've bought it. That's because it will disappear once you buy it, and that's it gone. So just
which pack is this now exactly?
So the ones that have the chest icons. So faction loyalty pack 1, pack 2, pack 3. To be fair, the only ones that most players will be looking at is faction loyalty pack 1 and 2, because the third one doesn't get unlocked until you hit 30 million reputation. Okay. So yeah, it's really just kind of looking at the first two.
Right. So I've opened the first Romulan loyalty pack. Romulan recruit number 2. Do I have Romulan loyalty 2? Yep. There's I think loyalty pack 2
comes. I think it comes at associate level. I think.
Okay.
It's either associate. It won't show until.
And I got one of each badge. Is that right?
Yeah, one of each badge. Few speed ups, tiny little bit of resources, and 500 recruit tokens.
So that's gone now. We only get one of them, and we have to wait for the it's the loyalty pack 3, which is at celebrated.
Yeah, but bear in mind you do get that for each faction. So if you are a dual faction, you'll be able to get 2 of them and get 2 of each badge. Or if you're once you bring the rep block back, you can then start to go tri-faction again. You can then get 3 of those chests and have 3 badges.
I hear you. Yeah. Have you opened any of this, Jansen?
Yeah, I just looked at it.
Associate is where you open the second one then? Okay.
Let's see, where am I? I am respected.
Yeah, so it should be just, depending on what device you're playing on. On mine it's to the left of the rare ship blueprints you can buy.
Okay.
Just on that, you've also got the messages, which I quite like. I mean, you have to kind of do a little bit of digging around to try to find the scouts. But I mean, it's a nice little. It's a bit of credit. I mean, 240 credits, which you can buy per day. That's like all your dailies combined. You're essentially doubling your credits per day if you were to buy that. If you killed enough scouts and had enough messages saved up, that's a lot of time saved.
Yeah.
If you're saving up.
Fair point.
Ship BP and all that.
The pack costs. You mentioned something about them. The ones you buy, like in the proper one, you pay real money for. They've gone up in cost. Has the cost changed to the faction store packs?
No, they've stayed the same.
They've stayed the same, right?
Yeah. The only thing they've changed price-wise in the faction store are the faction loyalty packs, because they're one-time buys. So because it's a one-time buy, it's a little bit more expensive. Apart from that, everything else is still the same. But again, in terms of what you would spend credits on, that doesn't necessarily change. You'd want to focus on your, promoting your officers or.
Now tell me
Kind of
something.
shit.
I haven't gotten to that point yet. When you upgrade the can crew, do they require command badges or engineering badges?
They do.
Right. So there's no loyalty pack in the Augment store when you're maxed with them to allow you command badges out of that, which is a bit crappy.
Yeah, they seem to have just kind of forgotten about the augments.
Yeah.
In the last wee while, there's been not really anything added to them for at all. I mean, even event-wise, I can't remember the last time there was a data mine event.
True enough.
Not that I'm complaining, just for clarification. It's a boring event, but yeah, I mean, it kind of stagnates, and the thing that I hate is you can only buy the independent credits once a day, and you only get 50. So I mean, I've got can. I think
50. Yeah, 50 is not a lot.
Yeah. So I think to get can up to level 15, I think it's like 400 credits or something like that. So it's like a month and a half of constantly buying it, but then also having to have the data mined as well to then exchange it for the credits to then buy it. Yeah, I think it just kind of they brought Augments out. It's had it for a while. Had a couple of events just to remind folk that it's still there. But yeah, it's they've not added any officers to it.
No.
And they've not changed any of what's in the store either.
That it would be another way you'd imagine, like for the hijack chips and stuff. They should be making it relevant so that you can get blueprints from augment credits for hijack ships the way you can for the Legionary or the D3 or that from the other factions. It's the logical way to go, and make faction space relevant again and faction events relevant. You know.
Absolutely. I mean, I was, I'm surprised that they've not done that. But I think the hijack's more of a collector ship more than anything else.
It is, but it's still functional. There's no difference in it than one of the others.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I've only seen. I think there may be 3. I think I've seen 2 hijack legionaries and 1 hijack Mayflower on our server. People don't. I think because of how much I had to focus on getting them. So any event that came out, they offered.
But that's where the idea of dynamic packs would come in again. You know, if they offered you, even if it was just during an event, during this event, blueprints will be available in the Augment faction store, through winning events and all of that there kind of thing. You get 23 blueprints. They make you an offer, buy 40 blueprints for this. There and then, one time offer pop up. People are going to buy that. Yeah. You know, they're masters at just keeping you one step short all the time in the events, the way they have them, the weighted, all of that there. They're masters at, you achieve the next tier, you actually need to go even further. The rewards that you get are not sufficient to, and in line with the tiers of the achievements, They always keep you waiting for that wee bit more,
Aye.
So, they could weight it that way. I wouldn't mind offer dynamic packs, but just give free-to-play players an opportunity to get them.
No, definitely.
Make the content relevant.
Yeah, especially at this point in the game where you've got the level cap now up to 50. You've got all the whales, hitting that 40 plus. What's the harm in making it easier or allowing other ways to get these level 26 faction ships? Pretty much, Yep.
If you've decided to go Romulan, well, maybe you're going to go and get a hijack D3.
Exactly.
Anyway, we could do another video on that as well. You any thoughts on that, Jansen, before we move on to the mood of the game at the moment?
I'm really curious what they're doing with the Augment faction. It kind of seems like it's something they picked up and dropped.
They're just forgotten about it.
Yeah, totally. Like, stop working on it. And the sad thing about that is like I I say a lot of negative things about Scopely. However, I think the Augment faction was such a great thing to do for free-to-play players. And to kind of just drop that and kind of like disregard it. I will say it's a good thing that those blueprints are not in there, because those ships are not good with the amount of rare plutonium you need to upgrade them when you can just buy the regular variants in the faction store.
No, but that's a fair point. Like, they're talking there, Flando's talking there about why wouldn't they make it happen, and that, they're supposed to be like trophy ships almost. So why wouldn't they be that little bit more difficult to get and upgrade if they're a trophy ship?
The only thing I can think of is that they just stopped working on that faction.
Seems like it. And despite the new content, despite some positives like we've covered, the Scrapyard's certainly a positive and things like that, the mood of many players is still quite low, and you're getting a sense of that, Jansen, and I don't know if you are, Flando, as well, and a few others I've talked to. It's quite a low mood about the game. I don't know if it's the time of year or any thoughts on that.
Well, what it really is, from what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing this from people pre-Armadas, that they were spending, and I know for a fact, a friend of mine was spending $300 to $500 a week.
Right.
And he completely stopped. And he plays the game, he grinds his NPCs, but his kind of like heart and soul is kind of like been ripped from the game because of Armadas, of what Armadas has done. Because the thing that Armadas did was it set up this huge spectacular, and it fell so flat on what people were waiting over a year for. Yeah. And then they came out with the anniversary slap in the face, is what I call it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I couldn't do anything but laugh about that pack they gave everyone for waiting a year for all this stuff that had been going on. And so it was kind of like they've been building up to really, like, what are we building up to? And that's what a lot of players, they had put so much money into this game because it is Star Trek and they're huge Star Trek fans. But now we have a game where there's really not that much to do other than to shoot at other people. The heart and soul of Star Trek is not in this game. And so what a lot of people did is they gave it a year. They were waiting for Armadas. Armadas really didn't deliver. Then they waited for the year anniversary to see what delivered. And then they got this level 40 stuff. And there are massive amounts of players leaving the game, putting down the game, reducing their play significantly, definitely reducing their spending significantly, because it's just kind of gotten to the point where, okay, I think it's time we move on, is what's in their head. And so ultimately that lands in the lap of Scopely. They just couldn't deliver on what Star Trek fans expected from a Star Trek game. I mean, if you take a comparison and you look at Star Trek Online, which has been successful for 9 years. It's a 9-year-old video game that is still successful in what it's doing. But, I mean, it has those components that you were talking about. It has those things with that two-way communication of having their fans develop content for the game, of having that input into the game. We don't like this. Fix this. Fix that. And they do. They definitely support their player base. And that is the one thing that mobile game developers need to understand, is that if you support the players will be there for you 9 years later.
Yeah.
And continue to buy what you want them to buy.
And they must, I must check. I played a little bit of Star Trek Online one point as well. I must check it out and hook up with you if I can. And even if it means a new account, we might do that.
I'm the kind of player that I actually like to support the developer. I spend a lot of money video games. On Star Trek Fleet Command, I've spent in the last year about $5,000. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's so crazy. I'm like, well, it's something I want to do. It was enjoyable for me at the time. And now I'm putting that money into Star Trek Online, and I'm having a really good time. But at the same time, Star Trek Online is a game where you don't need to spend $1.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people like as well. But suffice it to say, the reason why I think players are putting the game down is they set that expectation, it fell flat, and now players are kind of left wondering, what is going to happen now? Do I really want to stay invested in this game?
Any thoughts on that, Flando? What are you hearing?
I mean, Armadas wise, we used to do a lot of Armadas frequently during the events. We've got a few guys who do buy the packs regularly, but what I don't like about it is it's kind of split within the alliance. It's split up the pay players and the free players in terms of doing Armada events. You'll have maybe 3-4 people like all buy a pack each, and they'll all go do each other's Armadas and get all the rewards. And then you're having the free-to-play players, only maybe being able to do one Armada every 2-3 weeks. Now, I'm not saying that those who buy the packs have to let other people join. That's their choice. But the fact that the way Scrapyard have brought it out is they've deliberately created this gap between players within their own alliances and amongst their own friends. It's quite a negative for it could lead into a negative gameplay experience, and the fact that they've not really done much to update Armadas. So they brought out the Uncommons, then the Rares and the Epics. Since the very first day, we've been asking to let Armada leaders kick people out of their Armadas and actually take a bit more control and actually be able to manage their own Armada.
Yeah, we're after coming through an Armada event there, and from a hum point of view, we're only really getting our act together in terms of the rules around Armadas. What way this is actually done, because it's a bit of a free for all at times. And there's no real interest except to try to win an event, maybe if it's on or something like that. And even at that, it's like, I
mean, I guess for me, when it comes to Armadas, I'm the kind of player that kind of wants to get into the game, and it's like a role play. And watching Star Trek ever since I was a child, I really want to get into it. I want to feel as that character. Armadas takes that all away from you, and you hit a button, you shut your phone off, and it's done. And that is the biggest problem that I've had with Armadas.
Well, it's not as easy as that for us, because we could have our Armadas getting attacked. There are no rules for us around Armada. Yeah.
Our ROE doesn't allow for that.
Yeah. You see, and this is the thing. Sometimes row kills the gameplay. It's supposed to be PvP. It's supposed to go out and attack people. And even though it's a pain in the ass that you can't, you have to be watching it for those 15 minutes, it engages you for those 15 or much of it, The downside...
that's a really good point.
The downside to it is, if somebody comes in and kills your ship at the last minute, really, you've sat there waiting for 15 minutes, there's nothing you can do about it,
On our server, there's been a sort of unspoken agreement to kind of not hit each other's rare in Epic Armadas. Uncommon, there's not really much kind of stuck on the back of that.
Yeah.
But because of how much you have to spend to launch rares in Epics.
Yeah.
We've kind of agreed to kind of if there's an alliance on a rare or Epic, just let them have it. I mean, I can't remember the last time we had to fight for any Armada or fight for an Armada either. It was probably maybe a month ago, if not more than that. I think most alliances on our server just kind of go by that. Even the bigger alliances are on the same wavelength. Even the whales, I've kind of agreed to that as well, just because of how much money you have to pound it to launch it in the first place.
I wish people still thought like that on my server. I think that we're well past it, to be honest with you. I think we're in a situation where it's just like, even if we could come up generally with an agreement on that, and all of the main guys really did, there would be somebody who would just go, screw that, I'm not doing that, and would go out and attack, just because of a grudge or whatever, would just go out and attack the rare Armada anyway, you know. But anyway, Armadas is something you could do multiple videos on. I'm sure you'd agree with that, Jansen. It's one of them things, and ideas for it. There's so much it could be done with it, and it's a bit disappointing at how basic it is, I suppose. But
we'll come back to it, you know.
Well, yeah, we're hoping that people Scopely will come back to these ideas and whatever in the new year, and that players will give it that wee bit of a chance. People like yourself, Jansen, like I certainly wouldn't want to lose you from the community. And it's inevitable that you detach yourself a little bit more as you detach from the game.
Yeah, and I mean, and just so everyone is aware, kind of what I did was, because I did a rage quit once and I came back to the game, but this time I'm still like in the game. I'm still kind of observing the game, but I kind of went on a mobile video game exploration because I wanted to get perspective. I wanted to see what was out there on other mobile games. How was the spending? How was the engagement? How was the development of the game? And compare them. And that's really what eventually took me away from this game.
I've actually done a little bit of that myself, but I've always come back.
Yes,
you know?
I've seen those.
Yeah.
And that is probably the main thing why I'm still here is for the community.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's it. And we'll remind Scopely once again that whether you like us or not, whether we say things in a very nice way or not, the reality is that there are lots of voices in the community. We're never going to keep everybody happy. That certainly as a content creator, and even like, you know, the likes of yourself there, Flando, you're representing views that you're hearing on your server and through different forums on Discord and things like that. We're not always speaking from a personal point of view. Those personal point of views may be coloured a little bit by the community that we're in touch with, by the elements of the community that we're talking to and we're in touch with. And we don't want to always come across as negative Nancy's and be putting the game down. I think we've credited, maybe we mightn't have been particularly enthusiastic about it, but we've credited things like the Scrapyard and all of that when there are parts of the community, when the dominant feeling out there in the community is just Scrapyard is useless, and we're out there saying, the people we're talking to, it's not. And we're showing a little bit of evidence of that. So I like to think we are bringing balance, even though we maybe get a bad rap from Scopely themselves sometimes. But I'm hoping that they're still listening, and I'm wishing them a very happy Christmas and a season's greetings, or whatever way you want to put that. You might, if you're not religious, then just have a good festive time, you know. Whatever way it is, I'll always call it Christmas because that's my culture, and I suppose Scopely need to recognise that there are a variety of different cultures out there that do things differently as well, and we'd like to know a little bit more about the Scopely culture and the communication and all of that as the community that they speak so highly of on occasion. But it's that time of year. New Year's resolutions, lads, any?
oh god.
I'm not even thought.
You are?
I'm not even thought of that yet. I'll decide the week between Christmas and
Any
New Year.
game New Year's resolutions then?
I actually kind of have one, and it's already coming true. Is spending a whole lot less on gaming. Holy smokes!
Right. Quality of life in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would say that about the spending, but yeah, my willpower just sucks when it comes to that. So I'm not even gonna be.
So you're not going to set the bar too high for yourself.
Nah.
Okay, well, mine is to try to improve on the channel and improve on the content generally, to work towards bringing the community together. And it was very welcome to get you back, Jansen. You were there in the very first panel, and it's been a while since you were back with us.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure to have Ekon in and all of that there, and maybe we'll get him a bit more regularly as well and expand a little bit into 2020. And I want to thank you guys and everybody else that has contributed to the panel in 2019, and we'll catch up again in the new year, if not before that.
Awesome.
So in the meantime, take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and I'll catch you all again soon. Cheers.
All right. Thank you.